Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we're going to be talking about youngsters at Manchester United. Not just youngsters at Manchester United, but others that we're actually looking at, because yes, the transfer window might have closed, but United have been linked with a young winger. Also, we are trying to sign some of our young players onto longer term deals, and there's a couple of players as well who are going to have to wait a little bit longer for their debut. Plus, we'll have some other stories as well. There's loads of stories to get through, so let's get into it. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather it's alright. You probably won't need your parka today. Loads of stories to crack on with, so we will do so. But before we do, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I want to get to 800,000 subscribers, and with your support, yes you, we will get there. It seems like young players and youngsters is the main topic today of all the major stories doing the round. So we'll start with Tyler Dibling. This is the kid from Southampton. United being linked with him. I think there's a story in the Manchester Evening News, and I think Gimme Sport have got it as well, saying that United are looking at the 18-year-old as a potential incoming to the club. Now, we know about him because we saw him last week when we played against Southampton. He obviously won that penalty. He gave Diogo Dalot a bit of a torrid time. He is having a decent season. I know Southampton are struggling, and at 18 years old, he's obviously got a pretty bright future ahead of him. Now, the stories that I've read are saying that Dan Ashworth knows him, Dan Ashworth is a fan of his and all the rest of it. You'd think Jason Wilcox would also know him. Obviously, Jason Wilcox coming from Southampton as well. After he went to Manchester City, he went to Southampton, and ended up at Manchester United. So you think there would be a connection there too. Now, we've seen this player. Obviously, United have got this new approach to signings as well, where we are looking at younger players too. So it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Tyler Dibling, especially with that performance he put in at St Mary's against Manchester United last week, was on the radar. One to keep an eye on. Obviously, we can't make any signings now, and the sort of the flip side to this argument or this story is that Southampton are looking to put him on a new deal. That's what the stories are saying there, that they're looking to sign him to a longer term contract. So we'll have to see what happens with that one. But if Manchester United can bring in a player of that quality, a youngster like that, I don't think anyone's going to be moaning, as long as the price is right, of course. So we'll keep monitoring that. Whether it's going to be sort of next summer, whether United would even try and do something in January, remains to be seen. I think the likelihood is, if we are going to make a move for that 18-year-old, if Southampton are going to be willing to even entertain that, it would be at the end of the season. And a lot may depend on where Southampton end up. If Southampton end up staying in the Premier League, they might be unwilling to let him go. If they get relegated, they might decide then we've got to let him go to sort of start the rebuild process. Let me know in the chat and the comments what you think about that one. Also, another youngster who's doing the rounds on the stories this morning, I seen a story in the Evening News, is the lad we brought in, Sekou Kone. This is a defensive midfielder. I think he's 18 years old. Now, the stories doing the rounds are that he's going to have to wait until he starts featuring for Manchester United. There's this little mini tournament at Carrington at the weekend, I think, featuring Manchester City. And according to a report in the Manchester Evening News, Sekou Kone won't be playing in that. United are willing to bide their time with the young player, which makes sense, doesn't it? 18 years old, he's coming. He's obviously not going to be thrown into the first team. You might say, oh, just get him in the academy, get him playing for the under-21s. But if they are taking a softly approach, I don't have a problem with that. The main thing is we treat these youngsters right and we get them in a position where further down the line they're able to play for Manchester United first team. We had Finn from Academy Scoop, or the Academy Scoop, this week. He came in, he had a chat with us about the Academy players. He's going to be back in next week, so we're talking to him about Kone and about some of the other players that Manchester United have brought in over the summer, because United have brought in a lot of youngsters over the summer. Obviously, Obi Martin is a big one as well from Arsenal, so he's going to be talking us through them, what these players are about, what they can offer us, and Kone is definitely one to watch for the future, but he's going to have to be patient when it comes to featuring for Manchester United. Not the first team, obviously, that's much further down the line, but just for the under-21s. And I don't have a problem with that. I think it's right that Manchester United are taking the time with the youngsters and making sure they feature when they're ready. Talking of taking time with youngsters as well, Leny Yoro, there's reports this morning in several papers reporting that he's expected to be back for around December the 3rd. I think that's the Arsenal game, memory serves. That's when he's sort of penciled in to return to Manchester United. Obviously had that injury, didn't he, in the pre-season game, ironically, against Arsenal. Really frustrating. Looks like a quality youngster. Obviously, it was a bit of a coup for Manchester United to get him when he was linked with Real Madrid, because as soon as Real Madrid come calling for a youngster, you sort of go, well, that's the end of that then, isn't it? They're going to get him. So when United got him, it was a real positive move. Very, very disappointed, though, that he picked up that injury almost immediately. I think it was a metatarsal, was it? I think he was one of his bones. So we'll have to wait for him, but again, you want to see United taking the time, because this is a player who should have a very bright future ahead of him. Now, a lot has been made of this signing. I've seen a few stories doing the rounds this week about the fact United paid a lot more than Real Madrid were offering him, give him a bigger deal, all the rest of it. But I don't think that's a surprise that when it looks at the financial package, or when the financial package was put together, United put a better one together than Real Madrid. I don't think if you're going to say to a player, well, come to United, you're not going to play Champions League football, you're not going to probably win the Champions League like you do when you go to Real Madrid, but we'll pay you less money. That makes zero sense. This whole story, in inverted commas, about, oh, United offering a better deal, that doesn't surprise me at all. You've still got to entice the player, you've still got to convince the player that yes, he's going to get more money, but it's worth coming to Manchester United rather than going to a club who win the Champions League at least every other season. So the fact that we're able to get him, for me, represents the idea that Manchester United are a club moving forward. Yes, we can offer good money, everyone knows that, we always have done, but I think it's a little bit more than just saying here's a load of dough, come and play for Manchester United, when you've got a club like Real Madrid sort of offering you a deal as well. So it's a positive one for Manchester United, that, and hopefully he can make his full debut, competitive debut on the December the 3rd, I think is the one that's being said. Let's talk about another youngster as well, my favourite youngster, Mainoo. Fabrizio Romano was speaking, I think, on one of his podcasts, and he said that Manchester United are looking at putting a package together to offer him a new deal. There's not a mad rush for this, but it looks like a new contract offer is in the pipeline. United are just sort of finalising how that's going to look in terms of incentive and the package and all that sort of stuff. That makes loads of sense. We want to see Mainoo sign a long-term deal at Manchester United. We don't want to see him given a ridiculous contract of like 400k a week for 10 years or whatever, like we're seeing at likes of Chelsea and like we have done here previously with some players. Not 10 years, but you know what I'm on about. So I think there's got to be a bit of sensibleness towards what we offer Mainoo, but we want to get him on that long-term deal. We want to get him earning the kind of money an 18-year-old who plays for Manchester United regularly should be earning. He shouldn't be earning ridiculous money, but he should be earning good money. And more importantly, you want to get him signed down to Manchester United. He's happy here, he is a Red, and we want to see him stay here for many, many years to come. I'd love to see Mainoo being a one-club man, and I think he's certainly got the potential to do that. And I don't even think you can talk about him just in terms of potential anymore, because we've seen week in, week out what he's about. It's not just the potential he's got, although he has obviously got more levels to go up to because he's only a kid, but you've seen it, how good he is right now. I mean, he's gone from someone who made his debut in November, his full debut in November in the Premier League, to playing in the Euros final just 6-7 months later. It has been a ridiculously quick trajectory. Absolutely love Mainoo. If Manchester United could get him tied down to a long-term deal, it'd be great for him and great for Manchester United Football Club and great for me, which is the most important thing as well, isn't it? Talk about loads of youngsters. One wonder kid who didn't quite fulfil his potential is Anthony Martial. His deal, or his move to AEK Athens, has been finalised. That's all been done. Loads of stories doing the rounds about that this morning. He's put out a statement saying basically he wants to help the club win trophies, the usual stuff you get from a player when he joins a new club. I think there's a lot of Reds who'll be sort of looking at this with just a sort of slight interest, because Martial FC was a thing. There was a lot of United fans who loved Tony Martial, didn't we? And for a while I did as well, for a long time I did as well. You look at his debut, look at some of the goals he scored, and it is a shame the way it panned out. I do wish him well. I think injuries caught up with him, and it'll be just interesting to see whether he is still a good player, whether he is still that player we saw, because you wonder, did injuries catch up with him too much? And I think if he goes to Greece and it doesn't work out there, you've got your answer. But I wish him well at AEK Athens, and it's one of those, sometimes with ex-players you don't really care, and I think there's a lot of people that won't, but there'll be others that are looking at him going, okay, let's see what he's about, see if he's still got something to offer, and hopefully he can put his injuries behind him and move forward with his career. Obviously, injuries have been a massive issue for Manchester United. It's not just Leny Yoro, but this season we've already seen Rasmus Højlund. He got an injury in obviously the same game that Leny Yoro did as well. Plus Mason Mount's been injured. Plus Luke Shaw's not back yet. And Tyrone Malacia isn't back either. We did have a little bit of an update on some of those injuries from the manager in the press conference. He spoke about Rasmus Højlund and Mason Mount being back in training. We'll have to wait and see whether they are going to feature this weekend against Crystal Palace. The likelihood is they won't. We'll have our preview out as well soon, so don't forget to go and check that out, and we'll find out a bit closer to kick-off whether we're going to see the likes of Mason Mount and Rasmus Højlund featuring what is another big game for Manchester United. They're all big games though, aren't they? I'm going to wrap it up there. Make sure if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Going to be back later on today with The Brew. We've got a special guest from The Athletic joining us, so you don't want to miss out on that. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Paper Talk outside a pretty sunny Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.